our modern Western cultural picture of a teacher as someone who delivers academic information is becoming out of date. I carry much more a picture of a teacher as someone as I imagine an elder in another society, in another culture, perhaps an indigenous culture, where the elder has this task to guide the young in such a way, to lead them into the world, but in a way that they also can carry something into the future. With our program, with our adult program, we welcome, we invite people to join our program. They're adults, they've had a life already, but in some ways we have to undo some things. We have to create a space for them where they can once again take time to discover who they are, what it is that maybe has been buried by their education, buried by the necessities of life to earn money, buried by a career. Many of our students are making a change in life, and part of that is peeling back some of the layers and allowing them to become themselves again.
You know, it's kind of like a struggle as an adult to figure out how can I give my all in a way that betters humanity, and a lot feels lacking of purpose. The teacher training program transformed me to step into a different aspect of myself and my fuller potential.
I feel like there aren't many institutions that really help you find yourself in an effective way. For me, it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I have friendships that will last a lifetime, and not just with my cohorts, but with my teachers too. Even if I wasn't a Waldorf teacher, the insights I have about myself have only helped me and will continue to help me.
I think BACWTT is really for anyone who's interested in self-development and self-discovery and cultivating one's authentic self. I always called it the teacher development program instead of a teacher training program. And it really isn't about any particular value system or some dogmatic way of being, even a way of being a particular kind of teacher. It's really about finding oneself.
The Bay Area Center for Waldorf Teacher Training is here primarily to prepare adults to become Waldorf teachers. So our task is really to take people who only have an introductory knowledge of Waldorf education. They know about it, they've heard about it, they're inspired by it, and to really help them over the course of our 3 years to embody that, to be able to stand in a classroom to do this work, Waldorf education work.
For a very long time, I was on the fence about actually being a teacher, just because I thought I wouldn't be good at it. I don't always have the patience to see other people grow, which is really what you need to have as a teacher. The fact that other teachers in the BACWTT program actually had the patience with me and all the questions I had really helped with that. In the teacher training, I was really interested in how you teach science in Waldorf school because I would say this was my biggest questions about Waldorf education, because when you look and see a kindergarten or even in the grade school, it looks very artistic and beautiful, but there's not a lot of STEM, let's say, in the grade school. But I'm very much a STEM person, and I always loved math, and I've always loved sciences. And it was very important for me that my kids will get a well-rounded education. So I was very interested in seeing how science is being taught in Waldorf school. And now that I do that, I gotta say it's the best way to teach and learn science. Because when I was doing science in school and I loved it, I was a kid who loved that, it was boring compared to the way that I teach chemistry in here. Because in here we always start at the experiment. I'm also very different with my children. Because I understand them better, I understand where they are, I have more realistic expectation from what they can or cannot do. That helped me also with my parenting.
we are being taught as teacher training students in as similar of a manner as possible as to how Waldorf students are taught themselves. And just being told, okay, you're not just going to take notes, you're not just going to type on your laptop, you're going to make a beautiful artistic main lesson book for every course you take. And at first it's like, ugh, but then it's like, wow, I'm so capable. And I feel like those questions of how do we embody what comes in and then give it back out in a way that it's, you know, personal and beautiful. And that's something that stuck with me.
Our program has this two sides to it, where we're enabling an individual adult to grow themselves and then to guide that into a classroom situation. There's an inner schooling needed to stand in front of children in the right way.
I know from experience that a class where the teacher only calls on one student, if they have the right answer, they stop and go on. That student has just been reinforced to continue raising their hand. If they have the right answer, the rest are just going to sit on their hands and say, well, why should I raise my hand? They've got the right answer. So I'm polling the class and making sure that everyone knows I'm looking for participation from them.
What we're teaching here is getting to know yourself. And that is one of the hardest things here we have at the training, is when people face that, when people are really working on themselves. Through the teacher training and through my children going through this school, it has opened up entire horizons I had never known. I'm singing, I can sew, I can knit, I can do crafts, I can do all these things that I thought were not the Provence of a man.
But why is it that you have to start with things that are closer to your heart? Because we have to ask, well, what's the real task before you as a teacher? The real task is transformation. And that's part of what we do as Waldorf teachers.
Joining BACWTT was like nothing I had ever experienced before. It was not an easy 3 years. It was kind of stressful. There's a lot of challenging material, and it's challenging not necessarily in an intellectual way. It's challenging on a personal level. It makes you realize how you think or how you don't think. It gave me the tools so that then I could start to craft my own experience of teaching.
If you are trained to be a teacher in our time, it's pretty hard not to feel like you are running a race for the intellect to get everything it needs before adulthood, or else the child as a grown-up might not have the same access to the right job and the right education and getting into this university. But the truth is that what we're trying to do is help the human being have a real relationship to what they know. By pushing you up against yourself, you actually have to come to terms with where you are. You can't put up a false front. Somewhere you are going to be laid bare to yourself. There's no way around that, because you can learn all the stuff you need to teach. You can learn all about the progression of curriculum ideas, and of course we want you to have that. But that actually is less important than, do you know who you are and who you need to be when you get in front of human beings, regardless of their age.
Then someone in Europe decided, okay, I want to reply to you, and I do this. And someone in New York received a message. I would like to know what is the physics behind this phenomena.
And when Einstein says, you know, the first experience is the experience of wonder. As everything else comes later. So we are not talking about taking students and explain everything. If that experience of wonders is triggered, now you have everything else flowing there. So I find that that interest for the world around us, the world of technology, gives a real deep sense of motivation and interest about the science that is behind. Yeah? I have several alumni who went to study physics. I have some PhD in physics students. And they all told me that they were not only well prepared, but the teachers were impressed by the level of questioning and interaction that they had with them, because most of the time students are kind of trained to kind of, you know, internalize what the teacher says, not to inquire, not to discover something. Yeah? It's a process that you have to go through, and I think that we are more honest in our school to live through that process than any other system that I know. The way we connect to the age of the students, what is more meaningful to a 9th grader compared to what is more meaningful to an 11th grader. This is unique of Waldorf education.
What I think teaching is about is learning yourself. It's about meeting yourself through another. When you are with a child who has a need and you can step into that need instead of holding back, you feel yourself with that give becoming bigger.
I'd say it's probably one of the most significant educational interactions, like institutional educational interactions I've had, with an opportunity to kind of come up against, in an honest way, where I was and where I needed to get. Like, it was a great, also just a clear benchmark of where I was in the journey. And I think BACWTT did well to let you know that when you leave the program, you are a beginner. I left those days during the practicum where I went from, like, I don't know, maybe this is just, you know, personally enriching and that'll be fine, and to, I left like with this pep in my step and, you know, just transformation of ordinary things into wondrous things. That was exciting. I was like, it was like, you get to do this for a living? In the journey, stay open. There's an opportunity to maybe learn something about yourself that wants to wake up.
There's such a safe space created in teacher training. It can be hard to just every weekend and for an intense chunk of the summer share space with these same people. But the bond that develops there in embracing that we're all here for different reasons but for shared values, and the discussions that came up, that I can be present to these children, acknowledging that we are all meant to be here together.
Being in this program has been the most transformative experience of my life. What this training allowed me to do was to begin to listen, really begin to listen, to reflect, to observe. It's a spiritual path. And coming from India, I've had a spiritual upbringing. And then when I came here to the States as a graduate student, I felt disconnected. I couldn't find it here anymore until I found Waldorf education. What I brought to them is called the Legend of the Peacemaker. This is a legend that went on to give the Iroquois nations their unity at the time that the Europeans were coming in. And when they came in, they found that this group of 5 tribes was especially strong in how they governed themselves. And then fast forward a couple of hundred years later, Benjamin Franklin was impressed by their model of governance, this great law of peace that they were following in order to govern themselves, was inspired by it to an extent that he decided to incorporate that into the Constitution. So there are articles of the US Constitution that have a direct parallel to this Iroquois law of peace.
This program really values the role of the arts, How do you get to be a person whose inner life has been cultivated so that when you stand in front of your children, the inner life is full and rich and developed and not forgotten? There you'll see the students doing singing, doing painting, doing sculpting, doing movement. These are the arts that are artistic in themselves, but in our program they're cultivating something, they're schooling something. To be with children, you need to have the sensitivity, the sensibility of an artist, but in the social and learning realm.
As a teacher preparation program, we have a lot of artistic work. We paint, we sculpt, we sing, we draw on paper, draw on chalkboard, chalk pastels, colored pencils. There are crafts. We do all of this artistic work, and we do it because it integrates all elements of the human being. Also learning to be a model of the person who is always working at something for the children, and they need that. If you have an understanding of what the arts do for the human being because you've experienced it yourself, then when you're helping a parent understand why drawing that beautiful picture of the mountain and then little by little bringing the M out of the silhouette of the mountain into the abstract, that is a rigorous process. And it's a rigorous process that has much more value for the child, even though it doesn't seem to be going at a pace that we're used to.
So it's a task of a Waldorf teacher is to bring things alive, that the children experience them, take them in, digest them as a living experience, that they live through a process of discovery. We're preparing our teachers to be able to guide such a process.
There really is this great bond that happens with the teachers or facilitators or instructors in the BACWTT program too, that I feel like I can go to them now as a colleague, now that I've graduated, and bounce back ideas with them, trying to get some help troubleshooting areas. And so that's really nice to feel like you don't cower in fear having to approach your teacher again, but that they're really an equal there. Part of the work that we're doing is trying to encourage and make it an inclusive place for any person, and particularly in the areas of race and class. And so that's heavy lifting, but it's, I think, work that many people in the Waldorf community are working towards. And so if we can get ourselves on the same page or relatively in the same kind of area on the spectrum of our development in equity and inclusion, then we have a foundation we can stand on and we can start building from there.
Some of the ways that diversity can be introduced into our early childhood education. Can the children of color see themselves in this education? What kind of images are on our walls? What kind of stories are we telling? So that is the work that we're continuing to do, and BACWTT has helped to bring that into our early childhood education.
The nice part about having the BACWTT teacher training is now you have the pedagogy and the foundation of Waldorf teaching, and then you have this other realm of the background in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and now you can find out where can two meet. Where's the overlap? How can you not discount Waldorf pedagogy or anthroposophy, and what can you also uphold as a human being living in this world in the, in this century?
BACWTT is very dedicated to bringing diversity to this program, and the scholarship that is created for students of color is close to my heart. And BACWTT has really worked very hard to encourage and to support financially anyone who's interested in attending the program.
I think you would really enjoy BACWTT and really enjoy being a Waldorf teacher if you are interested in serving humanity in a creative and fun way. I think that's why I love this work, is that I feel like I'm doing something that will, that matters.